Introduction: The Prelude to Invasion. In the years leading up to 1066, England found itself on the precipice of a monumental shift in its history. The death of Edward the Confessor, the childless King of England, set off a series of political and military struggles that would ultimately change the course of English history. Edward's death without a clear heir left the throne of England vulnerable, and various factions vied for power, leading to the conflict known as the Norman Conquest. Edward, a devout and pious monarch, had ruled England for over 20 years, maintaining a relatively peaceful reign during a time when much of Europe was embroiled in conflict. He had spent much of his early life in exile in Normandy, and upon returning to England, his rule was often marked by his strong ties to the Normans. Despite his reputation for being just and fair, Edward's failure to name an heir created a power vacuum. His death in January 1066 sparked a fierce dispute over who would succeed him. The most prominent claim to the throne came from Harold Godwinson, the powerful Earl of Wessex and the leader of the Anglo-Saxon nobility. Harold had been one of Edward's closest allies, and upon the king's death he was swiftly crowned as the new monarch. However, Harold's ascent was not uncontested. William, Duke of Normandy, who had a distant familial connection to Edward, claimed that Edward had promised him the throne years earlier. William's claim was further strengthened by the support of the Pope, who was keen to see the influence of the papacy in England grow. At the same time, Harald Hardrada, the King of Norway, also laid claim to the English throne. Hardrada's claim was based on an old agreement between Norway and England, but his ambitions were also fueled by a desire for greater power in the region. These three men, Harold Godwinson, William of Normandy, and Harald Hardrada, found themselves in direct competition for the crown, setting the stage for a violent struggle for control. Tensions escalated as the contenders began to mobilize their forces. William of Normandy, intent on securing his claim, began preparing for an invasion. Meanwhile, Harold Godwinson, having been crowned, had to defend his position against both internal and external threats. Harald Hardrada, leading a formidable Viking force, invaded the north of England, culminating in the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Though Harold Godwinson succeeded in defeating Hardrada, this victory was short-lived. William, having already assembled a large fleet and army, crossed the English Channel to launch his own invasion. What followed was a decisive moment in English history, one that would forever alter the kingdom's political landscape and set the stage for the Norman Conquest. The political landscape of England before 1066. Before the Norman Conquest of 1066.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?